me feeling like I'm academics. Can't.
Let's move on from that. TMZ is now exclusively reporting that David is likely to face murder charges because an indictment is imminent, and that the grand jury is wrapping up and expected to indict David in the death of Celeste Rivas. And this is kind of interesting because before we had heard that there was an investigative grand jury that was mostly based on trying to do some fact finding, where it's like, all right, we could subpoena your phone, we could subpoena these records and try to figure out a timeline, because we're hearing hazy information all this time. We don't know the cause of death. We don't know this. We don't know that. And then they came out, they were like, hey, right now we're only like looking for, the only thing we could kind of prove is that there was maybe desecration or you know, improper handling of a corpse, but we can't really prove murder. But now the TMZ is reporting that, yes, it looks like a grand jury has been hearing witnesses, and they believe that they're going to vote on an indictment. And multiple sources tell TMZ that the authorities, including the prosecutor, believe that David was involved. Now, what does involvement mean? It doesn't mean that he's the lead suspect. Is he the lead suspect? Is he, hold on. Is he expected to be indicted for murder or for accessory? We'll find out later. Time says singer David will likely face murder charges. That's because the grand jury's been hearing the case and will be asked to hand down an indictment, sources say. There was a report last month that the grand jury was investigative. Yes, that's what we had heard. A grand jury that helps authorities gather information, but one that doesn't indict. Yep, so that's the point. So an investigative grand jury can be used to subpoena, then force uncooperative witnesses to testify, or sources say. However, the grand jury has not been hearing, that the grand jury has been hearing witnesses in the Celeste case is actually one that will vote on indictment. So now TMZ is going back on their word, which is that it was investigative, which means they wouldn't. So this grand jury will vote on the indictment. Multiple sources tell TMZ and authorities, including the prosecutor, that they think David was involved in the death of Celeste Rivas. They broke the story before that David, day-to-day manager, testified for days. A TMZ reporter heard that Morgan told the lawyer in the courtroom hallway that Silverman, which is the prosecutor, is very pushy and as to why he didn't call the police. He said he responded by saying it wasn't his responsibility and his job to make sure David tour kept going on. Grand juries generally do what prosecutors want, in no small part because the target, in this case David, has no right to present a defense. There was also talk in the courtroom hallway that the grand jury could hear witnesses in February, so don't expect an indictment that quick. So they're saying that it looks like this grand jury that's impaneled to be investigatory, they will be also voting if the indictment will come from that proceeding. Now, there could be other grand juries, and it looks like it's definitely on the path of homie getting indicted on murder charges or some charges related to Celeste Rivas' death, but we don't know what and what timeline, okay? So his manager was grilled by the DA, right? And the DA is, let's see. What's the DA's name? The DA's name is Beth Silverman. So yes, Silverman is the pushy, supposed like prosecutor that is trying to get to the bottom of this. And it looks like, I would imagine within January or February, latest March, we're going to get an indictment and we're going to get a clearer picture on what happened. It looks like this guy who's the manager is basically saying he did have some knowledge that there was a death, and look like that's his testimony. And I guess they try to push for him to say, well, why you ain't call the cops? We think you're involved. Why you ain't call the cops? And I guess he's coming across to say, yo, I ain't call the cops because my job is to make sure the tour happened. So yeah, I didn't report a death or I didn't report whatever because my job is to make sure that this tour went on the way, right? He said it wasn't his responsibility to call the cops. It was his job to make sure David's tour kept going. So look like maybe they could have enough ammo to try to flip this guy. And if they flip his manager against him to say, yo, all right, you know what? We're contemplating charges for you. And they can still have these conversations and say, yeah, we're going to present it in terms of the questionnaire to the grand jury for them to vote for charges of accessory for murder for you, unless you're down to testify and help us out and help us try to get a conviction on David. And what information might he know? Maybe not about exactly the murder, but maybe he was like, yeah, David told me, yo, there's a dead body in my kitchen. Could you move it? Or there's a dead body in the kitchen. Don't go there. Or, yo, hey, listen, no one drive my Tesla. Or, yo, could you buy me a refrigerator that, and then I said, well, what type of refrigerator? I could get you like a mini fridge. And like, no, something that could hold a body. Who knows what he knows, but he probably knows something that could help them connect a couple dots. And I would imagine that they would be threatening him with prosecution for accessory after the fact or even before if they can't get him to cooperate. My feeling here is he would cooperate by just the questioning of what he said in the grand jury. He said his job was to make sure the tour kept going, not to make sure whatever nonsense otherwise was going on gets covered up or, the police get called. So it looks like this guy might be a source of being able to be turned. And if that's the case, we'll see how this investigation pans out and if indictments come. I think the indictment is going to come between New Year's and January, if you ask me. But we'll see. All right? All good. Chat, I'm going to wrap up today's stream here. It's 4 o'clock. I know we've been on for 4 hours and 30 minutes. About 4 hours if you guys have been tracking time, just raw stream on YouTube. There are a couple topics that I didn't get to. For example, the Blueface and Soulja Boy topic. We'll get to that tomorrow. So Finesse 2 times. Yes, he'll do another appearance. And no, this is not nothing trying to push Finesse 2 times. He's just been on live like going crazy recently. He roasted G Herbo, and we'll get to that, but we'll do that tomorrow. Chat, we are gonna get into our yearly breakdown tomorrow, and I've told you guys my plans to have an earlier stream tomorrow. So thanks for bearing with me, and I appreciate you guys for tuning into the stream as always. Chat, I believe we've accomplished our 30 days. I am glad for that, but we, I forgot how much days it says it takes for you to develop a habit. People said it usually takes 66 days. Oh, my God. Oh, so we're halfway in. Anyway, we're trying to develop a habit of streaming really frequently. I think we've done a good job with the 30 for 30, but now we're on 31 days, okay? Chat, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you again in a couple hours. Go get some sleep. Make sure you got to do what you got to do. And if you're off from work, cherish this time because, yes, New Year's is approaching really quick. 2026 is on the way. And if you still got to go to work during these days, sucks for you. But hopefully I could give you some entertainment through work or in between work, right? Chat, I love y'all. I will talk to y'all tomorrow. I appreciate